What is up, everyone? Hello and happy Tuesday. I hope you guys are all doing fantastic. We are here live for the Sensitive Badass Lifestyle Masterclass. I'm going to give everybody a few minutes to come on here. If you're popping on, just say hello, tell me you're here, where you're popping in from, how you found us, and we will get started in just a minute here. Let's see. And with most of my masterclasses, so you guys feel free to ask questions as I'm going along, and I will answer as many as possible while I'm doing the masterclass. Some of them I might have to answer afterwards, depending on where I'm at with the content. But definitely make sure that you ask me any questions that you have so I can get those answered for you. And if you are watching the replay, if you weren't able to make it here with us live, go ahead and just pop your question into the comments and tag me, and I will come back and give you the answer. So let's see, just waiting for a couple more people to hop on here. Definitely let me know in the comments that you're here. And you might notice that I'm wearing a little crown situation. So I'm very much showing up in my queen energy today. Some of you know that I had an incident last night where there was some harassment on social media, and to be honest with you guys, I was really upset and devastated, and I almost canceled the masterclass today. And the more I thought about it, when I sat and I processed and I let myself feel, and I let myself really be in it, and I, spoke to my guides and called upon my support system, I was like, you know what? Like, I am not going to be bullied, and I am not going to be silenced, and I am not going to let anyone stop me from standing in my power and from being here in my mission, doing my purpose in this world, which is to do this work to support the beautiful, sensitive women of the world. Hi, Paula. Hi, Neds. So I was like, all right, I'm scared and I've been shaky all morning, but I'm showing up anyways. I am here because it's really important. And it was kind of funny because I was like, this is actually a really good lesson. It is important that we don't let people who, may be making up things about us in their mind, that we don't let them, hi Sarah, that we don't let them stop us from doing what we love, from speaking our truth, from showing up fully as our authentic selves, because that is what they want. And even though I love you too, Nets, and even though it's really scary, I mean, like, honestly, you guys, I run this business and I, am here to be a mentor to you guys. Thank you, Paula. I love you. But it's hard to show up on live. It really is. Honestly, like, I do it because I love the work that I do so much, and I love you guys so much, and I feel so called to this. But it's kind of nerve-wracking to get on these lives sometimes. And so then when something like that happens, where people are insulting you and spreading lies about you, it can really knock you off your track. But I was like, you know what? No, like, I've got my crown on. I'm in my queen energy. I'm showing up anyways. I am sending these people love. I forgive them. I bless them. I hope that they can find whatever it is that they're looking for on their journey. But I will not be bullied, and I will not be made to step down from my power and to stop doing the work that I'm here to do. So that is enough about that. Hi, Lindsay. Yay. Good to see you, hon. So I'm really excited to have you guys all here with me. I'm so thrilled about today's masterclass. I don't know if you caught the last one. This one is definitely a different take. We're going to be covering things in a little bit of a different way, both as equally valuable and important. So if you didn't see the Love the Thin Skin You're In workshop, I definitely recommend the replays on my page. If you can't find it, tag me and I'll send it to you. So for those that don't know me, I've always got to do my little intro spiel. I think most of the women on right now know me, but for those that don't know me, my name is Amber Rochelle, obviously, and I am an intuitive coach who works specifically with highly sensitive empaths to really minimize the challenges and maximize the benefits of the unique gift that we have, so that you feel really empowered to thrive in this world, not just survive, and really step into your purpose. So today's masterclass is about just that. It's really about stepping into your true power as a sensitive empath. And so the reason that I use the term sensitive badass is because for us, and I know you guys will relate to this, for us, sensitives and empaths, so many of us have felt and been told for a long time in our lives that we're weak, that we need to toughen up, that we need to change who we are to belong, that we need to not take things so personally. Excuse me, I stirred my crown. Not take things so personally, let things roll off our back. Hi, Nellie. Thank you so much. Oh, thank you. That means a lot to me. Thank you for being here. Yeah, so there's this message that we are somehow not okay as we are, that we are not strong, that we are weak just because we feel things on such a deep level. And I call bullshit on that. So I feel like the opposite is actually true, because people who are not sensitive don't understand what it feels like to be in our skin, to see things through our lens. So they might not understand that we're actually kind of carrying this extra level of stuff that we have to deal with. All of the information that we're taking in from the world around us, not only the feelings that we're picking up from others, but then the depth with which we process them. And so in my opinion, I'm like, we get up and we go out and we do everything everybody else does. We raise our kids, we have our careers, we have our friends, we have our families, all these things, but all while dealing with this level of emotional overwhelm. So I'm like, no, we're actually completely and totally badass. It's just that people don't see and understand that. So today is really about like, how can we start to see that for ourselves, and how can we stop looking for validation outside of ourselves to really stand in that place of like, this is my inner badass, this is who I am. I'm not going to apologize for who I am. I'm not going to shut down my sensitivity. I'm not going to feel like I have to pretend or be a chameleon to make other people happy. Like, how can we do this, and how can we do this in all of the different areas of our life? Because the thing is that, everything that I teach at its core, it's really about self-connection and healing and stepping into our mission and our purpose. It's just that I happen to work with highly sensitive empaths. And because we are different, we have different needs and different challenges that come up that block us from really living our fullest life, right? And shining at our fullest capacity and feeling comfortable expressing our authentic truth. And so it really is important to look at all the different areas of our life, finances, health, happiness, all these different ways, and see how our sensitivity is showing up in those areas. And is it showing up as an asset for us, or is it showing up as a challenge for us? And how can we use it to our advantage instead of letting us feel like we're held back? So it's really important for me to say, and I don't think I mentioned this in the last masterclass, and I want to make this very, very, very clear because this is deeply important. All this work, all this stuff that I talk to you guys about, this has nothing to do with overcoming or changing who you are or changing your sensitivity. The crux of this work is actually the opposite. It's about removing all of the blocks, removing the limited beliefs, removing the societal conditioning that is holding you back from seeing the actual brilliance that you already have inside of you. So this isn't about changing who we are. And for us sensitives, we're used to that, right? We're used to being told to toughen up and pull ourselves up by our bootstraps and, don't make such a big deal out of everything. And you need to change who you are. You need to change how you're feeling, or, the way you feel is wrong, or blah, 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 blah. All these things that we hear and these messages that we get. And it's like, no, none of that is true. Why should we have to change just because we're different? So this class today is really like, if you guys take nothing else away from this, please know that there is nothing wrong with you. You're absolutely amazing. You're incredible. You're so gifted. You're so talented. And you are so, so, so needed in this world. And so this work is really about you seeing that side of yourself, stepping into that side of yourself, no longer feeling like you have to morph into something that you're not. So that not only can you feel comfortable in your own skin, right? That's why I always say love the thin skin you're in, but also so that, your gifts are really can become unlocked. So let's see. And if you see my eyes darting around, I'm just looking at my notes. So in the last masterclass, in the Love the Thin Skin You're In masterclass, I went over, what it really means to be highly sensitive, what it really means to be an empath, the types of challenges that show up for us in our lives with those things, and also what really is the core of our gifts and why it's really amazing to be both of those things. So I'm not going to go over that again today, although it will come up sprinkled through, I'm sure, as I'm going through the content. But if you haven't watched that masterclass, I definitely recommend going to watch it. There's some overlap, but they're very different. So what I want to say is that First, we need to realize that we can't keep trying to do things in the way that everybody else does them. And what I mean by that is like, and this, I mentioned in the last one, is 80% of the population does not have this highly sensitive gene. So our society is not really built for us. It's really not. It's set up for the other 80% of the population who don't have some of this, nervous system overwhelm and emotional overwhelm on board. So it can be really challenging for us because we feel like we have to keep up with everybody else, feel like we have to keep up with the pace of society, feel like we have to change ourselves, make ourselves uncomfortable to be able to fit in, to belong, to survive, to be successful, all of these things. But this is all just messaging that we've received. Honestly, it is not true. It is societal conditioning. It is patriarchal conditioning. All of these things that are making us think that we're the ones that are wrong and that we need to change who we are. Now, I'm not saying this is an overnight process, and definitely, of course, you're going to come up against roadblocks, because when you have different needs and when you have a different, whole system of genetics and of ways that your brain processes the world, it can be challenging to find ways that allow you to feel like you are, thriving in life and feeling comfortable in your own skin, while still with the reality that we do live in a world that's not really set up for us. And the good news is there is a way to find that balance, but it has to really start with you taking a stand and being like, I am going to make my own rules. And this is one of the things with this stuff, guys, is, our brains resist change, right? Our brains are so afraid of change because they're trying to keep us safe. So, excuse me, that's what I started keeping up with the comments here. Hi, Gail. Yay, hi. So we need to kind of challenge that. Right? When you feel that come up, that resistance to the change, or that resistance to making your own rules, or resistance to standing up for yourself and your true nature, it is really important to remind yourself, like, this is going to feel a little bit uncomfortable at first. Like, feel the resistance and be like, oh, I see you, fear. Like, you're trying to keep me safe. And I appreciate that and thank you, but like, I'm going to move forward with this anyways. And a little trick, like a little hint that really helps when you're trying to change your patterns or change your thinking patterns or anything like that, where it's something that's been really ingrained for a long time, a little way to kind of hack that part of our brain that's trying to keep us safe is to say to yourself, this is an experiment. I'm just going to try this for 5 days, or I'm just going to try this for 1 day, or I'm just going to practice with this one person or this one scenario. And there's something about calling it an experiment that really helps that part of your mind to relax a little bit, because it's like, worst case scenario, we can go right back to doing things the way that we were before. So that's just a little aside there. And what's really cool about doing this work and stepping into your power as a sensitive woman and no longer being apologetic for the truth of who you are is that this work has a ripple effect. It has a ripple effect on society, and it has a ripple effect on the other sensitives. Like, when you as a sensitive woman stand up and say, I'm not going to apologize for who I am anymore, and I'm going to do the work to heal my relationship with myself and show up for myself and put my oxygen mask on first, you are paving a way for other people to do the same. You are showing other sensitive people that it's okay to do that, and that the sky is not going to fall if you put yourself first in line. Right? And you are also starting to push back on some of those ideas in society that it's not okay to feel, that it's not okay to talk about your feelings, that it's not okay to slow down, that it's not okay to be sensitive or, to be a big feeler. It's really when you show up at your full capacity, strong and confident, and are like, this is who I am, it has a very powerful ripple effect on the rest of the world and really helps to make the world a better place. Okay, so let's dive in. Let's dive into all the life areas. So I wanted to start with health. And yes, it's physical and emotional health is what I'm talking about here. And the reason why I wanted to start with this one is because if we don't have our health, what do we have, right? And how we feel in our body and how we feel in our heart and our soul, that affects everything else in our life. And there's actually a lot of challenges that come up for us sensitives in particular around health. What's up, Clinton? Yes. Oh, sorry, Lindsay. I just saw your comment. Yeah. Lindsay said, be the observer/scientist. Absolutely. Like, this is what we're doing. Like, we're playing with things in our life to see, is this going to feel better for me? Can I do this and still be okay? Can I let go of everybody else's feelings and feeling like I'm responsible for them, and find out that the sky is not going to fall when I do that. And it's just experimenting with what works for you and discarding the rest. Because the important thing with all of this is that you're feeling good and that you're at your highest capacity so that you can have an awesome life, and so that you can serve others out of your greatness, not out of a place of feeling obligated. So we do come up against a lot of health challenges as sensitives. And, when our nervous system is in overload, when we are emotionally overwhelmed and depleted, when our needs aren't getting met, that is going to wear and tear on our body. It's going to wear on us physically, and it's going to wear on us emotionally. And what a lot of us do, and what I used to do in the past, was just push stuff down, and be like, I just need to keep moving forward. I don't have time to deal with this. Like, there's people that need me. I don't want to be a baby, like that I have to get more sleep, or I have to deal. And this was just like shit that I told myself. But really, honestly, we can't be at our fullest if we don't have that floor underneath us of taking care of ourselves and making sure that our bodies and our minds and our hearts are in a healthy place. So many sensitive women that I know struggle with chronic illness and chronic pain. And I don't think that that's a coincidence. When we have pushed things down and pushed things away and not honored the truth of who we are, that can manifest as anxiety and depression and sometimes physical illness. Now, this does not mean that any of this is your fault in any way, shape, or form. It's very important that I'm adamant about that. But there is a connection, right, between our body and our emotions. And that's why, I always cry when I'm getting massages. I cry in yoga, because it's opening up these parts of our body that have stored and held these emotions. So it is really imperative for us as sensitives to find a way to, and I said this in the last masterclass, to ask yourself, what do I need day in and day out to feel like my most optimal self? What do I need to feel at my most optimal? So, maybe you need 8 hours of sleep. Maybe you need to avoid gluten. Maybe you need a massage once a month. Maybe, you need to take control of your social calendar and make more time for yourself. Maybe it's prioritizing a morning routine. All of these things, they can be seen as like, oh, but why do I have to do this when nobody else does? But I would encourage you guys to reframe that. And yes, Paula says health is wealth. Absolutely. I would encourage you to reframe that, not of like, why do I have to do these things differently, but of like, I honor who I am. And I know that when I do these things, I feel better. I'm at my best. I'm better for other people. I'm better at my job. I'm a better friend. And mostly you feel better. It feels good. At first, it's a shift, and it takes work to change our habits. But once you do, you start to see, when you do this work consistently, you start to see the benefits, and you start to be like, oh my God, I can breathe. I can be myself. I don't have to be second guessing myself all the time and doubting myself all the time and, worrying about what everybody else thinks about me. So again, this is a practice of getting used to what you need to feel your best in your body. And it's about progress, not perfection, also, you guys. And that's really important to point out, because nobody's perfect. Like, I teach this stuff and I still have weeks where my self-care drops. It's not about this, we have to do this many minutes a day and it has to be perfect and it has to look like this. No, it's about coming up with a general routine and lifestyle that supports the way that you want to feel as a sensitive woman in this world. That's what it's about. If you miss a day, oh well, get back on the horse the next day, right? If one day you spend an hour on your self-care and the next 5 days you only spend 5 minutes, okay, whatever, that was 5 minutes, right? So this isn't another tool for us to beat ourselves up. This is a way for us to start exploring how we can feel better in our own body and how we can feel better in our own hearts. And one of the biggest things that we need as sensitives, aside from sleep, is process time. It's time to feel our feelings, time to sit there and let all of that stuff that you're taking in from the world around you, to sift through it, to let it out, to really feel those feelings and let them move on. Because when we stuff them down because we're busy or they're scary or we don't want to be seen as too emotional, they stay in our body, and that is when it starts to manifest as other things that are going to hold us back even more. So we really need to look at the importance of putting our oxygen mask on first. So many of us, we have such big, beautiful hearts, and we want to give back and we want to help people. And we want to be there for people with like our profound level of empathy. But what ends up happening a lot of the time is that we put ourselves last and we become this doormat, and then our health suffers. And then we're exhausted and depleted and overwhelmed. And from that place, there's not much we can do for people anyways, right? So, when I was first working on like my self-love stuff, this is just an example of this, but I was in a place, and this was a very long time ago, but I was in a place where it was too hard for me to do it for me. And so I would do it for other people because I was like, I need to get well and I need to take care of myself because I don't want my best friend worrying about me. I don't want my mom worrying about me. I don't want people, I was like, I'm hurting other people, so I'm going to do this for them. And then it very quickly became for me. But that's the same thing. If you are struggling with putting your oxygen mask on first, if you feel like it's guilty to say, or you feel guilty saying no, or, you are just having a hard time taking time for yourself, if that feels selfish, remind yourself that if you can't do it for you right now, do it for everyone else. Because when an empath is well taken care of, we are so powerful and so amazing and so helpful. But the cool thing is that you don't have to do it in a way where you end up depleted and drained and exhausted. Once you do this type of work, and we're going to get more into stuff as we go here, you can switch your gift on and off. I mean, it's not quite that easy. It's nuanced, but it's like you can choose when you want to give intentionally, and you can choose when to turn it off and take a step back and put that love back into yourself, because you have to have your cup filled. Otherwise, you're going to get sick. And whether that is with depression and anxiety or some sort of a chronic illness or the flu or whatever it is, we need to take care of ourselves. We need to love ourselves enough to put our health at the forefront of our schedule and of our mind. So I like to think of, this stuff as emotional hygiene. Like, it's just as important as brushing your teeth. For me, my morning routine is just as important as washing my face and brushing my teeth, because it's my energetic and emotional hygiene. And if I don't get that on point first thing in the morning, I'm much more likely to be knocked off my track, to get distracted by somebody else's stuff, or to forget to put myself first, or forget to check in with myself. So when we do these things, when we can build a self-care toolbox for ourselves, and we know that we have these things that we can pull from and that we can use on a regular basis to support our deep feeling selves, then things really start to shift. You have that platform underneath you, you're feeling better, your energy is back. And then as we move into these other changes, you're in a place where you really can actually make these, because you've moved out of that cloud, or fog rather, of overwhelm, emotional overwhelm and energetic overwhelm. And I like to talk about self-care as proactive versus reactive. And I think I talked about this in the last one. And what I mean by that is that we want to do these things on a regular basis, because that is when you will see the most results from it. So rather than, I had a bad day, so now I'm going to meditate and take a bath and journal, which there is nothing wrong with, by the way. But if you're doing things like that on a more regular basis, that's when you're really going to see the benefits. That's when you're really going to start to get that kind of like, it's almost like a squirrel storing nuts for the winter, where you're building up that feeling of safety and of calm and of being in your own energy and of releasing things and, connecting to that inner strength within you. So that's a really important thing to think about. And so ask yourself again, what do you need to be your most optimal self? Like, what kind of health stuff do you need physically, emotionally? And how can you start, prioritizing that, putting it in your schedule, putting it first in line, and getting some of that stuff on board so that you can have that floor underneath you. And then we sort of move on to happiness, right? And health and happiness are so connected. All of this stuff is so connected, you guys, honestly. As I was kind of writing my notes, I was like, it's all sort of the same thing, but it's just, how does it show up in these different areas? And how can we shift that if it's showing up in a way that doesn't feel good, right? So I talked about on the last masterclass how as sensitives and empaths, we're naturally outward tuned. We have our little intuitive feelers, right? And they're picking up and taking in all this information from the world around us. And we need to learn to build the muscle of turning those feelers back in and checking in with us and ourselves, because it's very easy for us to get distracted by all the things that are going on in the world. I mean, we're getting bombarded with messages constantly, daily. I mean, think about social media and just media in general, and everybody's very go, 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 go. And there's not a lot of time built into the society that we have right now to stop and check in with yourself. And so we have to make that happen. We have to be proactive about making that happen, because the time's not just going to magically show up. And the crazy thing that happens is the more that you connect with yourself, the more that you listen to yourself, that you ask yourself, how am I feeling today? What do I need? What's going on with me? What needs to be released? What needs to be processed? What needs to be prioritized, right? The more that you do that, the more that it becomes autopilot. And the more that you stop feeling guilty about these things, it's just like anything else. When we're changing a habit, it'll be uncomfortable at first. Of course it will, but it will get easier and easier and easier over time. And especially once you start to reap the benefits of doing all of these things, because then you're like, now I want to do this, right? So I talk a lot about healing your relationship with yourself, and I want to just really quickly touch on what I mean by that, because I know that's not always super apparent right off the bat. What I mean by that is I mean looking at your relationship with yourself the way that you would any other relationship in your life. So with other people, and I think I did touch on this in the last class as well, but with other people, we prioritize that relationship, we spend time with it, we nourish the relationship, we get to know them, we want to show up for them, we want to take care of them. So why is it any different for us, right? Like, we need to be, especially as sensitive empaths, we need to be in tune with ourselves. We need to be able to hear the voice of our inner guide for us to really be at our fullest capacity. We need to go back within and look at the old stories that we've written about ourselves and what those mean about ourselves, and look at the limiting beliefs that we've picked up along the way. They say that most of the belief systems that we have were formed before we were the age of 8 years old. And I'm like, whoa, nobody wants their inner 8-year-old in the driver's seat, right? So we need to start looking at who is in the driver's seat. Who is running your life? Who's making these decisions? And are they on track with your values and your goals and who you want to be? And then how much time do you have in your life for play and happiness and socializing in a way that feels good to you, right? How are your needs getting met, not just everybody else's? And when we become really connected with ourselves, when we start to heal that relationship with ourselves and really forgive ourselves for a lot of the ways that we've treated ourselves. And again, none of this is about blame or shame or anything like that. It's just that, when you grow up not learning these tools, how are you supposed to know any different, right? So it's, if you're anything like me, like when I was much younger, like I was very mean to myself, and I had to do some work around forgiving myself for the way that I treated myself. Not saying that there was something wrong with me for that. I didn't know any better, but to heal that, to look at that and to be like, no, like that, I know why I felt that way at that time, but I'm not going to let that stuff hang around my psyche anymore. Like, I'm going to love myself through that. And the more that you know yourself, the more that you have control over your inner world, and your inner world affects your outer world. Your inner world creates your outer world, really. So really looking at, where are you finding worthiness and validation? Are you looking for it from the outside, or are you building it from the inside? And this is a big one, worth and validation. This is a big one. And especially for us sensitives, because we often feel like we have to prove our worth. We have to prove that we're not too much, or that we are enough, I always think that's ironic. There's sort of those two things on board, like, am I good enough? But also, oh my God, am I being too much for people? Right. So you're getting hit from both sides. But to really look at that and be like, can I decide that I am worthy no matter what anybody else thinks? Can I decide to validate myself, to validate my own feelings, to validate my own experience of the world? Can I say, like, I'm sick of feeling like I don't have this control over, it's like letting the outside world define you. No, you get to define you. And the more that you know yourself, the easier that is. The more that you know what that means and what it means to really, truly be in your own essence and to love that. And that doesn't mean that people's words and actions won't hurt. Of course. I mean, it's just like what I was talking about in the beginning of the video. I was deeply hurt by what happened yesterday, but I'm able to decide that that doesn't mean anything about me. And you guys, I let myself sit down and cry for like an hour, because it's not about, it's not about being like, oh, that didn't bother me. Of course it bothered me. It's about validating the feeling and then making a choice. And I chose to come on here today, even though it scared the shit out of me. So we get to start to take our power back in our life and be like, who took my power away from me? And am I still allowing them to have it? Right? I was talking with my friend Kristen earlier, and my favorite movie of all time is The Labyrinth. And if you're an 80s kid like me, you probably know that movie with David Bowie. And we were talking about this whole concept of taking your power back, because one of her most famous lines from that movie is, "You have no power over me." And when she realizes that, that's when everything starts to work for her. So it's the same thing. It's like, nobody has the power to define you. Nobody has the power to tell you how worthy or unworthy you are, or how, valid or unvalid your feelings or your success or, who you are is. Like, you have to take that back and take ownership over it. And again, not an overnight process, but starting to pay attention to, who is in charge of your life, and looking at all these different areas that we're talking about today, looking at, relationships and family and finances and success and health and happiness, and really kind of like paying attention to those. So there's a really cool, I'm not going to go deep into this because we don't have time, but one of my very first coaches was a woman named Molly Mahar, and she is amazing. And she taught me all about intention-based living. And it's really important that we are not just sleepwalking through life, but that we make sure that we are intentionally curating a life that we love. Otherwise, 5 months will go by, 6 months, 5 years, 10 years, and then you look back and you're like, what happened? How did I get to where I am? And so when I talk about intentionally curating your life, it's like set check-ins with yourself throughout the year and evaluate, like, am I getting my needs met in each of these areas? How am I feeling about each of these areas? What are my goals and my dreams? And then breaking them down into smaller steps and making sure that you're proactively going after the kind of life that you want. Oh, Gail, thank you so much. You guys, I love all of you guys. I hope you know that. I love everyone in my group so much. I love everyone who follows me so much. You guys are inspirational and amazing. And okay, not gonna get all cry. I might. But thank you for saying that, Gail. I really appreciate that. So the other thing that's really important when it comes to happiness is, are you speaking your truth? So we do get silenced a lot as sensitives, and nobody has the power to silence us, right? But it's hard when people tell you there's gaslighting and there's narcissists and there's, a lot of people try to talk you out of your truth and be like, oh, like that's not that big of a deal, or, it wasn't that bad, or all these types of messages tell us that our experience of the world is invalid, that we can't trust ourselves, that we can't trust what we're feeling, that we can't trust what we're experiencing. And that's crap. Like, we have to take that back as well and be like, no, like, just because they don't see or feel things the way that I do doesn't mean that my experience and my emotions around this thing are invalid or wrong. And so looking at, like, have you been silenced? Have you been muffled over the years? Do you feel afraid to talk about how you're feeling because of the things that you've heard? And if you do, you're in good company, guys. None of this is easy, but the point is we have to start to pay attention to these habits that we've picked up and these ideas that we've picked up from the societal conditioning, and being like, is it feeling good for me to feel like it's not okay to talk about my reality? Or to feel like I have to hide these parts of myself to belong. Like, it's hard to feel confident and authentic and, powerful when you're hiding these parts of yourself and not feeling free to speak your truth. And of course, I'm not saying just walk around everywhere just yelling out how you're feeling. I mean, that's like an extreme example. Obviously, there is tact and there is, environmental thing, like whatever. But just in general, do you feel like you have silenced your own voice? And to really look at, like, what is your truth? What are the things that you want to be saying? Wouldn't it feel so good if you were just free to feel your feelings and to be who you were, and to not have to be worried about how people were going to take it or what they were going to think about you, or, to just be you? It feels really good. And then also to think about this idea of building really strong roots. And again, like I said, a lot of these things are super tied into each other. But what I mean by that is that the more that we spend time in our own energy, the more that we allow ourselves to process, and to process without judgment, the more that we look at these different areas of our lives and where we've given our power away, but look through the lens of curiosity and experimentation, not judgment, and to have a deep dose of self-compassion through all of this work, the more that we do that, we're building these really strong energetic roots. We are bringing out the strength of our soul. We are letting that inner voice have a place, first within us and then with us speaking out. We are creating this, it's almost like a bubble of like calm and groundedness, where we are in our own essence, where we are letting ourselves be, and then as you start to build these roots, when you go out into the world and start practicing some of these things out in society, you have that to rely on. You are anchored, you are grounded, and therefore you will not get knocked off your center so easily. Because when we're walking around completely wide open with no energetic boundaries, without really knowing who we are, without really having built these roots, no wonder we get whipped around by everybody's emotional and energetic storms, right? Hi, Jen. Hi, honey. So it's really important to pay attention to this. Like, do I have strong roots? Do I feel strongly rooted? Do I feel like, I have this like inner column of strength that I have to fall back on? And then also with that and in that, I like to think about, our world is sort of like this pot. Plants are very much like empaths because they just absorb. They absorb the sunlight, they absorb the water, and they're there and they're beautiful and they're there for everybody to enjoy and look at. But also, we have to repot them. Plants need to be repotted consistently, right, if we want them to grow. Otherwise, their roots are going to wither and die because they are going to be held back by the size of the container. And so this is like one of the things I'm talking about is, have you outgrown your container? Is it time to push yourself outside of your comfort zone and start taking steps to take your power back and to feel better and to feel more confident and to feel like you can exist in this world in a way that feels good to you, but that is also a benefit to everyone around you? And sometimes that takes replanting, and sometimes it takes the discomfort of being uprooted from your comfortable pot and put into a new one. But once you're there, the expansiveness of being able to breathe and being able to make those roots even deeper and stronger, and to have that space to move into your next level self. And we can't do these things if we aren't paying attention. We can't do these things if we aren't doing the inner work and showing up for ourselves first and giving ourselves time to process and learn about ourselves and look at our needs and look at what we need to feel like our most optimal selves. And to put together also a coping toolkit, for all of the feels. And this is also very important when it comes to our happiness as empaths. We, rather than trying to run away from or push away or fight back against the fact that we are deep feeling creatures, we need to accept that that is who we are. So how are we going to move forward with that on board, right? How can we see that as an asset and not a curse? But furthermore, how can we set ourselves up with a toolkit that is going to help us to navigate all the feels that we know are going to happen, whether we fight them or not? Fighting them only amplifies them. Fighting the truth of who you are only makes things worse. One of the things that I hear a lot of my clients talk about is that they don't want to be so reactive. And reactive is not necessarily, well, let me put it this way. So reactive, having like an emotional outburst or not being able to, hold back how you're feeling in a work setting or whatever. But the thing is that the more that we fight our emotions, the more reactive that we're going to be, because all of that stuff is still in there simmering and layered, and like the pressure needs to come out, the steam needs to blow somewhere. And if we don't tend to that on a daily basis, that's when this reactivity stuff's going to happen. That's when we're going to have, an emotional outburst, which is not even necessarily a bad thing, but that's when that's going to come, and we're going to start to feel out of control of our emotions. That's another thing that people say all the time. And I used to feel the same way too. I was like, I have no control over this. I felt like I was a crazy person. But it's not that you don't have control over it. You do. But it is that you have to tend to it and accept it and honor it, right? And then you're not in such a place of being, having instances where you feel like, you're being really reactive, and then you end up walking away and feeling bad about what happened there. Rather, when we are taking care of this stuff on a proactive basis, and when we put together a toolkit for all of the feels, then we're able to have a pause when something happens. We don't feel like we're just like our feelings are bubbling up and right here at the surface about to come out, right? We're able to take a step back and be like, what am I feeling? And like honor that feeling, and then make a very conscious, intentional choice about how we want to react to the situation. It's so much more powerful that way, and it feels so much better. And then you don't feel like you're just like out of control of your emotions, because you're not. The thing that makes you feel that way is fighting them. Honestly, a lot of this stuff is very ironic, because it's like you would think that it would be the opposite way. And I know it's really scary to trust in and to start to surrender to your sensitivity, but I can tell you guys from personal experience, it's so much better on the other side. And not to say that I don't have struggles, or that my clients who've gone through this work don't still have struggles, but once you have that fierce connection to yourself and that confidence and have really made peace with your sensitivity, and not just made peace with it, but learn to actually fucking love it and see how it makes you strong and see how it makes you gifted and see how it makes you such an amazing asset to this world, like everything changes. Mindset shifts are so powerful, you guys. The body work, taking care of your body, taking care of your emotions, and then taking care of what you're telling yourself about yourself, right? These things can drastically change your world. And it just takes dedication, and it takes time, and it takes attention, and it takes most specifically awareness. And at the same time, allowing yourself to receive, allowing yourself to take time out for yourself, allowing yourself to put yourself first in line for once in your life sometimes, right? And giving yourself that space to really move through some of this stuff, so that then when you feel ready and you go back out, it's like a completely different experience of the world. And you are shining so bright, and other sensitives see that, and people around you see that, and it feels better. And it's our inner world is so magical and powerful. So I'm going to move on to relationships and family, because this is a big one. And also, you guys know me, I'm long-winded. I would talk forever if I could. So I'm going to try and keep us on time. Okay, relationships and family. So I'm sort of lumping this all together as romantic relationships, friendships, co-workers, although we're going to touch on career in a minute. But, obviously family relationships. As empaths, we have the capacity to have really deep connections with people, and quickly, right? Like, we talk to people soul to soul. We feel their soul. We have ours like right here, like our hearts are on our sleeves. And that's the kind of connections that feel good to us, right? I'm sure nobody listening to this now or on the replay like small talk. I sure don't. We want those deeper connections. We want to, have that like depth in everything that we do. The problem is a lot of people don't understand us. And many sensitives feel chronically misunderstood, right? And so we're always kind of trying to adapt to the energy in the room, or, make sure that we're not making other people uncomfortable, or, make sure that we're not saying the wrong thing. And it's almost like we're just walking on eggshells constantly around everyone. And once again, not only is that not good for us, but it's not really breeding authentic relationships either, because we're not asking for what we need. We're not showing up 100% in our fullest capacity as who we are, if we even know what that is, right? We're sort of just being this like social chameleon and sort of just navigating these relationships. And again, makes so much sense, of course, because we don't know another way. We haven't been taught another way. And so that's what feels safe. That's what feels like we have control around things. But at the end of the day, I love you, Lindsay. At the end of the day, it doesn't really feel good to us, right? And so there's this process of getting comfortable with standing up for your sensitivity and with educating other people about your sensitivity, because it's not necessarily, we don't want to sit here and be like, we're victims and nobody understands us, and people walk all over us, and those things may feel true, but is that an empowering way to live? And when we're in that place, we're just allowing all of these things to happen to ourselves, rather than saying, you know what? No. Like, I have value as I am, just as I am. And if people can't see that, they might not be the right people for me. And I say that with, all of the love and compassion in the world, because it's hard when somebody doesn't want to get on board with your truth. And sometimes it just takes time. I talked about this in our last masterclass. Sometimes people just need to adapt, because when you first start standing up for yourself and you first start setting boundaries and you first start really educating people on your sensitivity, there's going to be some discomfort there. There's going to be, a little bit of awkwardness, maybe some defensiveness, all these sorts of things that can come up, but people can work through that with you. They can get on board with this new you, or not even new you, but honestly real you. Like I said before, all of this work is really about removing all of the layers that have been put upon you, removing all of the blocks that have been in your way for you to show up fully as yourself. Paula, I owe you that. I'm going to email you later today, okay? And actually, I'll put some of these in the group as well. What Paula's asking about is articles about being sensitive. So what I was saying time was that some people are more scientifically minded, so they're going to take more to the term highly sensitive person. And then some people, of course, are more spiritually minded and see it as being an empath. Honestly, it's vernacular. It doesn't matter. It's about how you experience the world. But when we are trying to explain to people how we experience the world, a lot of times if somebody reads something in like Psychology Today, they're more apt to feel like it's credible or, you know, believable than if we're just sitting there going, no, like I literally can feel everybody else's feelings, you know? And they're like, yeah, okay. But then you're like, no, here's this article that talks about the mirror neurons, that talks about the brain science behind this. The fact that I actually have different activation in my mirror neurons in my brain, which is what gives me my greater level of empathy, which is why I feel these things so deeply. The fact that my nervous system processes things on a deeper level, which is why I get so overwhelmed easily. Sometimes people need the scientific explanation. And, you know, so it's giving people an article, giving them a book, asking them to read a chapter out of Elaine Aron's The Highly Sensitive Person. You know, she has books about highly sensitive children, about highly sensitive people in love, highly sensitive people in the workplace, like anything that you can find like that, that is going to help. Absolutely, Paula, send it to me. That is going to help you communicate in a way that is going to build a bridge in that relationship, not tear it farther apart. But with all of this, when it comes to setting boundaries, when it comes to educating people on your sensitivity, you only have control over what you have control over. You only have control over yourself. And one of the things that I see that is a roadblock for people is that they feel like if they start setting boundaries and they start saying, no, this is who I am, I'm going to be who I am, that they are hurting other people or taking away from things from other people. To which I say, there's an infinite amount of love in this world, and you loving yourself and you giving to yourself only amplifies your ability and your power to love and give to others. And also, if people can't deal with your boundaries and if people are not willing to meet you where you are at, they are not worth your time and energy. Now, I want to say in here, the caveat is like, it gets much more complicated with family, right? Or if it's somebody in your workplace. I'm going to get into workplace in a minute. But we have to decide what is allowed in our orbit. Energetically, emotionally, logistically, what are we willing to put up with? You know, what are we, and where are we going to draw a line of how we deserve to be treated, how we need to be treated, again, to feel like our most optimal self, how, you know, we treat other people. Sorry, I'm just looking at the comments. Yes, Lindsay, yes. Okay, so she said I'm like Deanna from Star Trek. Yes. Or that Mantis lady from Guardians of the Galaxy. Yes, hashtag nerd over here too. I actually have, Lindsay, I have the little Popco, the Funko Pop of Mantis. Because she's like our mascot. She's our little, actually, I'm going to get it. Anyways. Because I have a door. Okay, nope. See? Yep, here we go. So she is our little mascot. And also Deanna on Star Trek. There's, you know, if you start to look at movies and at pop culture, empaths pop up kind of all of the time. It's not overt. They don't always call themselves empaths, but look at Rogue from the X-Men. And I have a whole thing about the X-Men that I'm going to talk about later. But, you know, we are an archetype in this world for a reason. Once again, our sensitivity is not an accident. We are here on purpose. And it's just figuring out how to, you know, fit in this world in a way that works for us, in a way that feels good. I love that you brought that up because yes. So I really recommend that if you are struggling with relationships in your life, whether it is a respect issue or a boundaries issue, whether this is a romantic relationship or any other kind of relationship, you really need to, once again, it starts with you, right? Like, what do you need? What do you feel like you're willing to compromise on and what you're not willing to compromise on? And continue to tell yourself, like, you know, if you get that guilt bug coming up, or if you start to feel like, who am I to ask for this? Or is it okay for me to set this boundary? Or is it okay for me to say no? Of course it is. You are the CEO of your own life. Like, you have to be in charge. If you don't step into that role, somebody's going to walk all over you, or they're going to snatch that role from you. And so you have to own that, right? And it's not as scary as it sounds, I promise. These are just building emotional muscles, building new neural pathways in your brain. And this stuff gets easier and easier and easier over time. And a lot of times it's just little tweaks, just little tweaks. You know, we're not talking about upheaving your whole world here. It's just putting that power back in your court of, instead of just, like I said earlier, kind of sleepwalking through life and like just allowing these things to happen to you and then reacting to them, being like, no, like what, like I'm in charge here. This is my life. What do I want? How do I want it to feel? What do I want to be doing? How do I want to show up? You know, what feels the best to me? What are my values and goals and my dreams? Because that's not selfish. Like, we are all unique individuals for a reason. We're supposed to listen to our heart and our soul and follow our dreams. You know, nobody was put here to be a doormat or a slave. So it's really, really important to, and I don't use that word lightly, but what I'm saying is that nobody, like the purpose of us being here is not so that we can get taken advantage of. The purpose of us being here is to show up in the fullest capacity of who we are. Because when we stand in our authentic truth and we show up as our authentic selves, that is you being the lighthouse, you know? And it feels so much more powerful. Your sensitive superpowers get amplified, and you are helping people just by being who you are and just by standing in your truth. One thing real quick is, if you guys haven't heard of the Love Languages book, I highly recommend that. It's not specific to being sensitive or an empath, but if you are in a relationship with someone and you're struggling with, you know, getting your needs met or feeling like you're meeting their needs, the Love Languages book is amazing because it talks about how we all have different ways of showing and receiving love. And it can be really healing for couples because you can start to see, like, oh my God, they were trying to be loving to me this whole time. It's just that the way that they show love is not the way that I receive it. And it kind of gives you a communication platform to start to talk about that and to start to really understand where each other are coming from. So that's a really good one. And then finally, I just want to really quickly, and this is, I could do an entire masterclass on this, and I probably will, but I just really quickly want to touch on like energy vampires and narcissists, because this is such a chronic issue for us sensitive empaths. We just have this like bright, shining, big, beautiful heart, and people are attracted to us like moths to a flame. And in and of itself, that is lovely and beautiful. However, and once again, they may not even know they're doing it. This isn't about being a victim. This isn't about blame. This is about you taking your power back. People will take advantage of that. You know, people will want to like take all of your goodness from you and leave you with their energetic slime. People will target you because you are forgiving and loving and understanding and willing to give people many second chances, right? There's all these things that sort of draw these people to us. And sometimes it's an energy vampire that, like, bless their heart, they're probably really struggling with something, you know? If it's someone that just like a friend that's always calling you and always talking about all the bad things, but never listening to you or never there for you, right? Those sorts of things are like the person in the office that just comes in on Monday and like unloads on you about like all of their stress over the weekend, because they know that you're going to sit there and listen, and they know that you can hold powerful space for them just by being who you are. So we really need to watch for that, because we will get sucked dry. And then there is the narcissists, right? And narcissists are the biggest offenders when it comes to being attracted to us sensitive empaths and really taking advantage of our willingness to sort of take a backseat, our willingness to compromise so deeply, our willingness to make ourselves small so that other people can feel big, our willingness to listen and support and love them through things and be there for them. And it's for them, it's like you're building them up, and that's what they want. But then they will completely take advantage. And I have had so many narcissists in my life, and it took me a really long time to start to be able to identify that and to realize, because the worst thing about dealing with a narcissist is that they're always going to turn it back around on you. They're expert manipulators, expert gaslighters, and so they're always going to try and make it feel like it's you and it's your fault, which to the empath, we're then like, oh my God, I didn't mean to hurt your feelings. What did I do? And we're spending our energy racking our brain around what did I do wrong, instead of, wait a minute, this is total bullshit. Like, this person can't treat me like this. So I would encourage you guys to read up on narcissism. Most of you, I think, probably already know about this, and I do post articles from time to time, but just do a little reading on it and look around your life. You know, I always say, like, maybe every 6 months, just do a scan for the people that are in your life, in your social circle, in your workplace, you know, whatever, and be like, am I like, have I sort of let my boundaries slip anywhere? Are there like energy vampires coming in? You know, am I dealing with a narcissist here? Like, stay on top of that. Because again, CEO of your own life, right? You need to be your biggest protector and defender and your own best friend, really. And when we were talking earlier about health and happiness, this is when you are healing your relationship with yourself and healing your relationship with your sensitivity. That starts to come more naturally, you know, because we go from this place of feeling like we have to make up for some flaw that we have to feeling like, no, like I need to be there for me so that I can be well and I can be happy and I can be shining my brightest light, you know, and you're really doing a disservice to others and a disservice to the world when we don't prioritize ourselves and our health and our happiness. Boundaries is a whole nother deep topic that I could and will do a masterclass on. But I just want to say really quickly that we need to, this is the other thing, and I use the word awareness constantly because awareness is your best friend. Awareness is taking your power back. You need to look at where your boundaries are leaky, right? You want to, like, all of these things we're talking about awareness. So it's like the awareness of, you know, what is my self-care toolkit? The awareness of what am I feeling? What do I need? The awareness of, you know, are there energy vampires in my life? The awareness of, am I at where I want to be in all of these places? You know, all of that. So it's really, it's paying attention to our thoughts, paying attention to our patterns, paying attention to our feelings. And then that gives you, it puts the power back in your hands for you to choose what you want to do with that stuff, rather than just feeling like you're being, you know, whipped around by the waves of life. It's like, no, there's a lifeboat there, but it's here. It's not out here. So really looking at your relationships and being like, do I have boundaries at all? Because sometimes we don't when we don't know how to set that. We have very porous energetic fields, but we can fill those up with our own essence, and we can start to choose what we'll allow in our orbit. And sometimes boundaries are just set in your own mind. You don't even have to say anything to anybody else. It's you choosing with you what you will and will not allow in your life, and what you will and will not tolerate, and what you want and what you need. And then sometimes it's more specific, where you have to draw a line with someone and say, you know, this is my boundary. And there's a lot of different ways to do that. And it doesn't always have to be as scary as it sounds, but boundaries are just good, solid self-care, and you deserve them. Everyone deserves them. Like, you, alarm, sorry guys. You deserve like your own sovereignty around your health and your happiness and your space, your energetic space and your emotional field. And so looking at like, where do I feel like, I'm like constantly straightening my crown. Looking at like, where do I feel like I am being taken advantage of or walked on? Or on the flip side, where do I feel like I need to speak up more about my needs? You know, whether that's saying no to a social event. I mean, we have the holidays coming up, like, here we go again, right? Like, I'm passing the holidays. But whether it's saying no to a social event, or whether it's saying, putting a limit on, you know, I can only see this person once a month. It's just looking at that stuff and making that decision for yourself. And if it's really scary for you to set that boundary, getting the support that you need, talking to your friends about it, talking to other sensitives about it, because a lot of times we get so in our own head that we make something into, you know, it's really, really scary, or we're feeling like we need to feel really guilty about this. And then when you talk to someone about it, you're like, wait, no, you're right. So it's good to have these conversations, right? Because we can reflect things back to each other. And I always tell my clients, talk to yourself like you would talk to a friend. And if you're saying things to yourself that you're not allowed to set a boundary, or it's wrong for you to say no, or that you suck because you're sensitive, or any of those things, right? Be like, would I ever talk to a friend like that? No, I know you wouldn't, because you're wonderful, sweet people. So then why do you deserve any different? And this is really helpful with boundaries too, to be like, why am I telling myself that I don't deserve to set this boundary? And also, again, like I said before, remembering that like you cannot control what other people are going to think about you. You can only control what you think about you. And you can't control how people are going to react to your boundaries. You can only control loving yourself and taking care of yourself and communicating those boundaries in a loving way. And if somebody's not receptive to that, it doesn't mean anything about you. It means everything about them. So let's go on to finances and career. So this one is, there's a lot here, and a lot of the stuff that we talked about earlier today really plugs into here. Boundaries, standing up for yourself, using your voice, asking for what you need, right? So whatever your career is, even if it's being, if you're a stay-at-home mom or whatever it is, when I say career, it's like, what are you what are you doing day in and day out? You could be an entrepreneur like me, you could be working in corporate, you could be it doesn't matter. But whatever your career is, again, to bring that awareness around that and ask yourself, am I happy? Do I get to show up at my fullest capacity? Is this serving me? Is this something that makes me does it feel meaningful to me? Am I getting walked on at work? Because I know I got severely bullied and walked on in past jobs that I had. And it wasn't until I stood up for myself, that I was able to say, hey, no, I am worthy. I have a lot of worth as an employee here. And that has a powerful, owning that within you, owning that even just in your mind, your energy shifts and people feel that. Right? We need to pay attention in our careers and in our life to the fact that we teach people how to treat us. Now, this does not forgive them of responsibility for actions if they're being shitty. But if you have always been a doormat, people are going to be used to you being a doormat. If you don't speak up for yourself at work, people are going to be used to you speaking up for yourself at work. So it's really about noticing, is my behavior getting me to a place where I want to be? And if not, shifting that through the lens of I can't control how these other people are going to take to this, but I need to do what's right for me. I need to step in as that CEO role. And I do talk a lot about career versus mission. And in my upcoming mentorship program, we're going to be diving into purpose and mission a lot, because so many of us sensitive women, we really feel called to do something bigger in the world, but we feel held back by all of the stuff that we were talking about earlier, right? We feel held back by, feeling afraid to put ourselves out there. And mission and purpose doesn't mean you have to be speaking on global stages. It doesn't mean you have to be doing something that's changing, the world on a global scale, although that's amazing. Maybe your mission and purpose is healing things within inside your home. Maybe your mission and purpose is being the best friend that you can be. Maybe it's rescuing all the animals that you can rescue. That's one of mine. Maybe it doesn't matter what it is. It's just that you're connecting to that part of you that feels called, it's your soul's calling, of saying what am I here to do? There's that saying, what are you going to do with your one precious life? And it's, what are you going to do with it? And the funny thing is that so many times with my clients, and when we ran the last mentorship program, go from the start of feeling disempowered and, their sensitivity is a curse and all this stuff, to in the end finding out that their sensitivity is deeply intertwined into their purpose and mission and serves them greatly in their purpose and mission. It could be putting your artwork out there. It could be, speaking, it could be writing, it could be whatever it is. It's really important for us as empaths to feel like we're living a meaningful life and that we're living based off of our values, and staying connected to our dreams. And sometimes our purpose is not our career. Maybe our career is just serving as a means to an end and our purpose is somewhere else. Doesn't matter. Everything is okay. What matters is how you feel about it. And what matters is if you feel like you're aligned and you feel like, you are really using your gifts to your fullest capacity, having this meaningful life in a way that feels really, really good to you, in a way that feels on purpose for you, it changes so much. And then also looking at, does your career support the lifestyle that you want to live? And especially through the light of all the stuff that we just talked about, right? Does it support your needs as a sensitive woman? And now I will say, it's not I'm saying everybody can just get up and quit their job if the answer is no. Of course not. But again, it's the awareness of looking at, are there some shifts I can make so that this will feel better to me? Can I start looking for a different job that would feel better to me? Just bringing that power back. How can I make this work for me now in the meantime until I find something that feels better? Or, no, I'm totally comfortable in this job. I just need to make some adjustments based off of my inner worth and the confidence that I'm building. but to look at like, are you living out of the place of should, or are you living out of the place of like alignment? Are you just going through life doing the things that you think you should do? And again, I'm not saying that in a critical way. This is no judgment. I did that for so much of my life. And it makes perfect sense. But we want to see ourselves in this light of loving compassion of like, it makes so much sense that I lived from a place of should for so long, but now I'm saying, no, I'm going to live from a place of alignment with my soul, alignment with my purpose, alignment with my inner guide, and alignment with what fucking feels good to me so that I can be at my brightest. And so a lot of times when it comes to career, we're stuck in the shoulds of, well, I should take this job because, it's what my parents would want me to do, or I should do this because, the salary's great. And again, logistically, some of this stuff, yes, like it's not always that easy when it comes to career and finances, but the more that we honor ourselves, the more that we value ourselves, the more that we are connected to who we are and what we are doing here on this earth, doors are going to open, possibilities are going to open for you. Things that you never even could have possibly thought of will start showing up on your doorstep. I shit you not. So even just the act of asking yourself these questions and paying attention and using your awareness tools can start to shift and move things in ways that you never would have believed or imagined. And this is taking charge of your life, of deciding like, I'm going to work on my confidence. And confidence comes after action, not before. Just to use myself as an example, like I still get super nervous when I come on and do these live videos. It's not like the most natural thing to me as a sensitive empath to be like, hi guys. But the more that I do it, the less it scares me. And the confidence didn't come before. The confidence came from believing in myself enough to know that I can get on here and do this. And I am driven by my purpose and my mission and how much I believe in this stuff and how much I love you guys. And the confidence comes after. So, just looking at like, are you speaking up? Are you asking for your needs? Are you setting boundaries within your career and your workplace? Valuing your worth at your job, standing up for that, having that built from the inside out. And, to ask yourself, like, what do you really feel deserving of? It's a lot of times, there's this whole thing that like feelings aren't allowed in the workplace. And I'm like, oh, okay, but it's fine when people get really mad and freak out about things, right? But don't, heaven forbid, you cry in a work meeting. Sorry, guys, I still have a little bit of cold. But once again, the more that we stand up for that stuff, the more that we change the tide. There's nothing wrong with being emotional. Nothing at all. It shows that you care. It shows that you're a deep person. It shows that you're willing to be vulnerable and authentic and real and put your feelings out there. Like, that is what I see as badass. Not like, oh, I'm going to be a tough guy, or, oh, I don't need any help, or no, like, I don't have any feelings. Like, whatever. There's nothing strong about that. That's not truth. That's not reality. That's not authenticity. That's not allowing yourself to be seen for all that you are. And I'm not saying you need to go sob in the conference room at work every single day, but to start standing up for this stuff. I used to get shit all the time at my old job for like, being emotional or crying or whatever. And so, like I would go in the bathroom and cry, and that's fine. But sometimes I would say, you know what? Like, it's okay to have a feeling. Like, it's okay for me to have my feeling. Let me have it, and then it's going to pass, right? So those little things of just standing up for that. Standing up for that part of yourself. And, as you go through all of this type of stuff that we're talking about today, it really starts to unlock the beautiful part of being sensitive, because a lot of times we just get stuck in dealing with it or feeling like I said in the beginning, it's something that we have to overcome, and it's not. It's something that you need to embrace, because that is when everything starts to click and everything starts to work, and you really start to unlock the magic of being sensitive, because it is a magical, amazing, awesome gift. And once we can kind of clear out that stuff that's holding you back, then you can start to harness the power of that gift to make your life better, not worse, right? Like, I love being sensitive now. Are there difficulties that come along with it? Of course there are, but I wouldn't have it any other way. I 100% love that about myself. And it's so connected, obviously, to the work that I'm doing here, right? But it's that unleashing of the truth of who you are and taking that leap of faith that stepping into more of who you are is actually going to make everything better. I mentioned the X-Men earlier, and I'm sure you guys have heard me talk about this before. Sarah, I love you. She says it's okay to be emotional because of an asshole boss. Yeah, thank you. It's okay to have feelings when somebody's bullying you at work. Like, of course you have emotions. I hate all that stuff. This is like a feelings revolution, you guys. Standing up for our feelings, allowing people to show their truth. So important. So I love the analogy of the X-Men, because the X-Men were seen as misfits in society. People didn't understand them. People were afraid of them. People didn't know what to do with them, right? And when the X-Men were separated, you know, they were struggling with their powers. They were struggling with how to use their powers, how to control them, and how to not let those powers destroy them. And there is Rogue, who in the X-Men, you know, she has a lot of empathic powers. And so if you haven't seen the movies, even if you're not like a comic book fan or whatever, watch them, because especially the ones with Rogue in it, because it's such a great way to look at it. Like, they straight up had a superpower school where the X-Men would go to learn how to amplify and manage their powers. So that's basically my whole mission here, is like, let's get ourselves in superpower school. Let's shake off all of this crap that's been holding us back from our power and our strength, and really amplify our sensitive superpowers together as a group, as a sisterhood, as a collective, you know, and stop feeling bad about ourselves and start getting out there and really actually making a difference in healing the world. Because that's the thing, is that when the X-Men learned how to work with and not against their superpowers, and then they started going out and using them, that's when the society started to latch on to like, oh, these guys are actually here to help us. So it's just a really good example of what can happen when we go first as leaders. When we say, I am going to own my sensitivity. The rest of the world may not ever understand it, but I'm going to go first. I'm going to put myself first. I'm going to own this. I'm going to show up for this. I am going to, you know, harness the power of this. And all through a lens of like taking fiercely good care of myself, because I'm needed and I'm important and I matter in this world. And I matter and I'm worthy, and everything I feel and experience is valid. And thank you, Lindsay. And like, this is why I do this work, you guys, because we are such incredible creatures. You know, it's just this societal conditioning that's held us back from seeing how magical we truly are and how magical life can be. You know, like, you deserve to feel good. You deserve to feel like every single day is magic. You deserve to feel like you can do anything that you want, you know, and that you're free to speak your truth and free to be yourself. And that in doing so, just in doing that you are healing others and healing the world, not to mention healing yourself. So I really hope that this was helpful to you guys. I hope it was inspiring to you guys. Like I said, if you have any questions, if you're watching the replay, go ahead and tag me. And then, you know, I want to gift you guys, and I said this in my last masterclass, but I don't think I was super clear about it. So everybody who's watching the replay, I want to gift you a 30-minute call with me. This is not like a high pressure sales call. That's not what it is. It's not like the typical, like, whatever. This is me and you having a soul conversation about what's going on with you in your life and how I can be most supportive to you. And if you don't know what your question is or how that would show up, book the call anyways. Like, let's support each other as sensitive women. You know, let's dive deeper into this conversation that we've been having today. As soon as I end the live here, I'm going to put the link for that below to schedule the call with me. If you don't see a time on my calendar that works with you, feel free to message me personally, and we will work something out. These calls are my gifts to you. Please take them. I want so deeply to further this conversation, to strengthen the relationships with you guys, to be as supportive as I possibly can. And so really, please take advantage of this opportunity, and just know that this call is all about you. And if you have been resonating with everything that I've been talking about, if you're like, I feel like she's speaking to me, oh my God, I want this stuff, I do have the doors open to my Sensitive Badass mentorship program right now. I mentioned that on the last masterclass, but I don't know that I really explained what it was. Like, after I got off of it, I was like, I think I really told them what it was. So if you're interested, I'm going to post the link to the details page for that as well. But this is my sort of signature program, my highest level way to work with me. It is a 6-month program. It has a group aspect, and then it has one-on-one access to me as well. And so I did this year, I changed it up a little bit. There's 2 different tiers that you can sign up under depending on the time that you want to invest and the finances that you want to invest. So there's definitely options there depending on what's going on in your life right now. But this is a very intimate program. It is a sisterhood. It is coming together to do all of the work that we have been talking about today. So we cover self-care and coping skills and energy protection and lifestyle and mindset shifts, clearing the limiting beliefs, dealing with self-destructive behavior, making friends with your feelings, healing your relationship with yourself, eliminating overwhelm, putting into place like lifestyle shifts that are going to support you as a sensitive woman and support how you want to show up in the world and how you want to feel in the world, how you can get your needs met without guilt, how you can cultivate confidence, how to really amplify your powers and turn your gift on and on in a way that serves you and others at the same time. And really to up-level your reality, and start to bring more magic into your life so that life can feel more fun and magical and easy, and that you can feel like you're really on purpose as a sensitive woman. I am so deeply passionate about this program. So if any of this calls to you, if you've been resonating with this, definitely check out the link that I'm going to put below, or message me personally and let's chat about it. It may not be the right fit for you, and that's fine. But if it is, I would absolutely love to have you. There is nothing more that I love doing on this earth than running this program and being here for you guys. And I just love you all so much. So definitely check out the mentorship program. Check out the 2 different levels of tiers that you can sign up under. If you know anyone that you think would really resonate with this, please share so that we can get this work out to as many amazing sensitive women as possible. And book your free call. Seriously, it is my gift to you. So let's connect further, guys, okay? I love you all. Let me know if you have any questions, and I will talk to you guys soon. Okay, bye. Thank you for being on here with me live.